Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. When my real parents found me, I was working in the fields with my adoptive parents, planting rice seedlings. They told me I was their biological daughter who had been switched at birth, and they wanted to take me back to the city. Soon after, they began arranging a marriage for my younger sister. One candidate was a young intellectual with a crippled leg who only had eyes for me. The other was a military officer with a bright future. Everyone said he and Anna were a match made in heaven. I felt pity for the young intellectual, so I gave him all my savings and started a business with him, working tirelessly day and night. Late at night, he would often hold my hand tightly and whisper that I was his only salvation. But when Anna's kidneys failed, my entire family tricked me onto the operating table. As the anesthesia began to fade, I heard my husband speaking to the doctor. "She's awake. Increase the dose. Anna is waiting for her kidney." That was when I realized he had never been crippled, nor was he really an intellectual. He was the guardian my parents had chosen for Anna, marrying me only to watch over a living container of organs. As the drug spread through my body, he whispered softly, "I'm sorry, but I can only save one person. You ruined my happiness. Leaving you with one kidney makes us even." When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the very day my parents forced us to choose our marriage partners. "Emily, what are you staring at? Hurry and choose." My mother, Linda Carter, urged impatiently, her voice pulling me out of my hatred and back into reality. I suddenly woke up, and the familiar scene appeared before me. This was the Carter family home. On the sofa sat my real parents, both physiology researchers, and their cherished daughter, Anna Carter, whom they had raised for 18 years. In front of Anna stood two men. One was my husband from my past life, Nathan Blake. He wore a faded old shirt, his thin frame slightly hunched, his right leg appearing to limp. At that moment his eyes seemed filled with affection as he looked at me. But when I looked closer, I saw clearly that gaze was meant for Anna, standing quietly behind me. Sadly, in my past life I had never realized it. The other man was Major Daniel Turner, standing tall in his sharp military uniform, proud and imposing. No matter what, his future was destined to shine. His cold eyes glanced at me once, then moved away, never looking back. This scene was painfully familiar. Just like before, my father, Richard Carter, coughed lightly, pretending to be sympathetic. "Emily, you've just come back from the countryside. We won't force you. Nathan may have trouble with his leg, but his feelings for you are real. Daniel, on the other hand, comes from a strong family and has limitless potential. He and Anna are a perfect match, but the choice is yours. Whatever you decide, we'll respect it." His words sounded righteous, but the calculation in his eyes was impossible to hide. In my past life, I had been deceived by those very words. I picked Nathan's so-called disability, touched by his so-called sincerity, and chose him. But Daniel, the one supported by everyone, was always destined for Anna. I thought I had chosen love, but I had only stepped willingly into a cage they had carefully prepared for me. "Sis, hurry and choose. I know you like Nathan. Don't worry, I won't fight you for him," Anna said softly, her weak voice carrying unusual warmth. Her pale face flushed strangely, her demeanor so understanding and kind that she instantly won my parents' praise. Even the flicker of pity in Nathan's eyes as he looked at her did not escape mine. Watching the silent play unfolding between the three of them, I sneered inwardly. Their acting was truly remarkable. If there was ever a family that knew how to play their parts, it was this one. If I hadn't already died once, maybe I would still be spinning around in their lies like a pinwheel. "Emily, it's just choosing a man," Linda Carter urged again, her tone carrying open impatience. "What's so hard about that? Don't waste everyone's time anymore." In her eyes, I, her biological daughter, wasn't even worth a strand of Anna's hair. I stared at them, my heart cold as ice. Seeing that I still hadn't spoken, Nathan Blake stepped forward, his voice gentle just like in my previous life. "Emily, don't be afraid. Whoever you choose, I'll respect it. Just think carefully. Major Turner is an outstanding man. You've just come back from the countryside. You probably can't reach someone like him." Every word out of his mouth hinted that I wasn't worthy of Daniel Turner. That only he, the supposed, was my one and only option. How laughable. One man calculating every move. one hoping I would donate my kidney to keep him alive, and a pair of parents who clearly wanted me gone for good. All of them were right here, pressing me to choose. Slowly, I lifted my head, my eyes sliding past Nathan Blake's false gentleness and landing on Daniel Turner. "I choose Daniel Turner," I said. My voice was soft but rang out like thunder, making the entire living room freeze. My parents were stunned. Anna's eyes went wide with shock, and the best reaction came from Nathan. His tender expression instantly froze, and he almost forgot to keep up his limp, unconsciously straightening as he blurted, "Emily, what did you just say?" I ignored him and turned instead to the man who had been silent this whole time. I said, "I choose to marry Daniel Turner." I stated clearly, meeting Daniel's eyes, every word sharp and deliberate. All eyes turned toward me as my finger pointed straight at Daniel Turner. Linda Carter screamed, her voice shrill enough to pierce ears. "What did you just say? Say it again. Who did you choose?" "I chose Major Turner," I repeated, even managing a polite smile in Daniel's direction. "Didn't you all say the choice was mine? I think Major Turner has a bright future, and he's handsome. If I marry him, the rest of my life will be secure." My words were frank and pragmatic, and even Daniel Turner himself paused. At first, he looked startled, but his face quickly darkened with contempt and anger. Feeling insulted, I knew he always saw a country girl like me choosing him as an affront. Emily Carter. My father, Richard Carter, slammed his teacup down on the table. The tea splashed out, even landing on his sleeve. "What nonsense are you pulling? Daniel is meant for your sister. What do you have that compares to him?" I blinked at him, my face the picture of innocence. "But didn't you just say the choice was mine? Are you lying to me, Dad?" My words made Richard Carter's face flush red with fury. "How could you do this?" Anna burst out, tears welling up in her eyes before spilling down like a snapped string of pearls. "You know I like Daniel. How could you steal him from me?" It was a masterful reversal. They had clearly schemed to push Nathan Blake onto me. Yet now it looked like I was the one stealing Anna's beloved. I watched Anna's performance coldly, feeling nothing. At that moment, Nathan Blake, who had been silent, finally stepped forward. He moved to stand between me and Daniel Turner, his face full of hurt and desperation. "Emily," he said, "you're angry at me, aren't you? You know Daniel Turner doesn't like you." Nathan Blake's words rolled out like a script he'd rehearsed. In my previous life, those very lines had made me shrink with inferiority, believing there was no one in this world I could rely on except him. But now, hearing them again, they sounded absurdly ridiculous. His saving me, his shielding me, none of it was for love. It was all just to make controlling me easier. "Nathan, does your leg hurt?" I asked, my eyes fixed on him. He was so agitated he was standing on both feet without even realizing it. The corner of my mouth lifted in a mocking smile. With just one sentence, Nathan's face drained of color. He immediately stepped back, his right leg returning to that familiar limp. His eyes flickered with panic as he stammered, I was just too upset, that's all." I didn't even bother to respond to him. My eyes stayed on Daniel Turner. My tone was light but edged with provocation. "Major Turner hasn't even said anything. How do you know he doesn't like me? What if he actually prefers country girls like me?" At last, Daniel Turner couldn't hold back anymore. His gaze swept over me like I was garbage, his disgust open and unrestrained. "Keep dreaming," he snapped. "I would never marry a woman like you." That was exactly the effect I wanted. I had deliberately chosen the man they had prepared for Anna. The best choice to throw their plans into chaos and force them to tear off their own masks of false morality. From the moment I came back to life, this family needed to be shaken to its core. Even though Daniel Turner had rejected me outright in front of everyone, I didn't care in the slightest. The air in the living room grew thick and awkward. My mother's face, however, showed a flicker of satisfaction. She stepped forward, pretending to be affectionate as she patted my shoulder. "Emily, you heard him, didn't you? We didn't force you. It's Daniel who says you two aren't right for each other. I think Nathan is the one who truly cares about you." With just a few words, she tried to drag everything back to the script they'd planned. My father, Richard Carter, darkened as well. His voice was stern. "This is outrageous. You don't know your place. Apologize to Daniel right now." One played soft, the other played hard, thinking they were perfectly coordinated as they staged the same old play. Anna cried harder, hiding behind Nathan as if I had just pierced her fragile heart. And right on cue, Nathan Blake stepped forward. He bent down slightly toward Daniel Turner, his demeanor humble. "Major Turner, please forgive her. Emily just came up from the countryside. She doesn't understand things yet. Don't hold it against her." Then he turned to me, his eyes full of tender devotion. "Emily, it's okay. Even if Major Turner doesn't choose you, you still have me. I don't care about your background. I'll treat you well for the rest of my life." His act was so convincing that had I still been the girl I once was, I might have burst into tears and thrown myself into his arms. But it was too late for that. I wasn't the weak girl from before. My heart had hardened like steel. I let out a soft laugh and met my father's furious gaze. "Why should I apologize?" I said coldly. "If Major Turner doesn't like me, that's because he's blind, not because it's my fault." Richard Carter's rage boiled over. He raised his hand high, ready to slap me, but Anna grabbed his arm just in time. "Dad, don't hit her. She didn't mean it." "Enough." I cut through their performance with an icy voice. "I've had enough of your hypocrisy." The room went silent as I continued, my words crisp and unwavering. "Today I'll make it clear. Daniel Turner, I will marry you. If you don't agree now, I'll wait until you do." Then I shifted my gaze to Nathan Blake. The smile on my lips was so cold it cut to the bone. In this life I would never marry him. Without another glance at any of them, I turned and started up the stairs. "Stop!" Richard Carter's roar thundered behind me, full of rage. "Do you think you get to decide in this house today? Hey, you'll either choose Nathan or go back to the countryside." This was exactly what I wanted, but Nathan Blake truly panicked. He had worked so hard to pull me from the countryside. How could he let me walk away so easily? He rushed forward, blocking my path. "Sir, don't be angry. Emily's just confused for the moment," he said quickly. I shook his hand off, staring straight at Richard Carter. "I'm perfectly clear-headed. If leaving is what you want, then fine. I never cared about this house anyway." Turning on my heel, I headed straight for the door. When Linda Carter saw me about to step through the gate, she shrieked, "Stop her. Don't let her leave." Several tall, broad-shouldered men appeared from nowhere, blocking the exit. Richard Carter came up to me, all affection wiped from his face, leaving only cold calculation. "Emily Carter, let me tell you something. From today on, without my permission, you won't take a single step out of this house. Your sister's illness can't be delayed any longer. You're going to marry Nathan and stay by his side." At last his true face showed. 2 security guards grabbed me, hauling me upstairs and locking me into a room. Before the door slammed shut, I caught sight of Nathan Blake downstairs, his eyes fixed on me with a complicated look. I leaned back against the door, listening to the footsteps outside fade. Strangely, I felt completely calm. I was under house arrest. 3 meals a day were brought in by security. Every window was boarded shut with planks. This room was like a sealed metal box with no air. Nathan Blake became the only person allowed to see me. Every day, he came bringing food and water, sitting by my bed with the same old lines. "Emily, why do you have to torment yourself like this? Your parents are only thinking of you. As long as you agree to marry me, we can leave here immediately. I'll give you the life you've dreamed of. Don't be stubborn anymore. Bow your head and admit you're wrong." "There's nothing wrong with that." I stayed silent, meeting his gaze with nothing but ice. Perhaps my attitude started to wear on him. His eyes began to show open irritation, as though he was about to drop the act. That night, the wind howled and the rain poured, a bone-chilling storm. Anna's condition seemed to worsen again, and the whole house was thrown into chaos. Even the guards watching me were caught up in the turmoil. I deliberately staged an argument with Nathan, crying and shouting, "What's the point of living like this, locked up, controlled? I'd rather die." I even hurled myself toward the corner of the wall, slamming my forehead hard enough to draw blood. Nathan was startled, instinctively reaching out to stop me, but I used the chance to knock over the oil lamp on the table. The lamp rolled across the wooden floor, and flames leapt up, catching the curtains. "Fire! Fire!" I screamed. The wind from the storm fed the flames, and they spread fast. Thick black smoke filled the room, making it hard to breathe. For the first time, true panic, not acting, flickered across Nathan Blake's face. He tried to drag me outside, but I clung to the bed frame, screaming like mad. "I'm not going. Let me burn to death here. Isn't that what you all want? For me to die?" Nathan hesitated, his eyes turning dark. Downstairs, I could hear Richard and Linda Carter shouting in panic mixed with Anna's violent coughing. "Nathan!" Anna's inhaled smoke. "Get her out now." Linda's voice rose with real fear. "God, if Anna's condition gets worse, we're finished." Nathan turned, looking at the flames that were spreading wider and wider across the room. A flicker of ruthlessness flashed in Nathan Blake's eyes. The instant he heard Anna's name, he must have made up his mind to leave me behind. I immediately turned and bolted toward the door. As soon as he reached it, he barked orders at the guards. "Save Anna and Mr. and Mrs. Carter first. Anna is the priority above everything else. As for her, if she wants to die, no one can stop her." His tone made it sound like my life wasn't even worth a piece of furniture. Through the smoke, I watched his back disappear into the sea of flames, the corner of my mouth curling into a cold, thin smile. Before the thick smoke swallowed my vision completely, I quickly crawled under the bed. There, hidden beneath the floorboards, was a secret opening, a disused underground tunnel that led out to the storage shed in the yard. It was my only way out. Summoning all my strength, I slipped inside and carefully pulled the hatch closed behind me. The tunnel was pitch black, damp, and reeking of mold, but soon I would be free. When I crawled out from a pile of straw in the shed, the sky behind me blazed with fire. From this night on, Emily Carter was dead in that inferno. By the time the flames were finally extinguished, dawn had broken. The attic where I'd been locked up was nothing but a charred, crooked skeleton, ready to collapse. The firefighters found a blackened corpse in the rubble, unrecognizable except for the faint outline of a small framed woman's body. My mother fainted on the spot and had to be caught by my panicked father, Richard Carter. No one knew if she was mourning me or just mourning the kidney she'd lost. Anna wept as though the heavens had fallen, throwing herself into Nathan Blake's arms, her whole body trembling. How could this happen? Why would she think like that? "Nathan, this is all my fault. If it weren't for my illness, she wouldn't have." Nathan held her gently, patting her back, his face showing sorrow and regret. His gaze drifted to the blackened corpse, his throat tightening as though someone had gripped it. He couldn't get a word out, his chest constricted painfully tight. Was it really her? Was she truly gone just like that? In that moment, a strange, absurd sense of loss welled up in him. But immediately after, he forced himself to turn away, telling himself over and over, "It's better this way. She's dead, and that's for the best." Yet, the words brought no relief at all. Instead, they felt like a nail hammered deeper into his chest, each beat more painful than the last. The Carter family quickly announced to the public that their eldest daughter, Emily Carter, had suffered mental problems and accidentally knocked over an oil lamp, causing the fire that claimed her life. The funeral was held punctually. There was no memorial hall, no headstone, only a cheap urn buried in a forgotten corner, as if no one named Emily Carter had ever existed. During the first few days, Nathan Blake even felt relieved. He sat by Anna's bed, tucking the blanket around her, gently comforting her, and secretly felt lucky. With Emily gone, there were no more complications. He could now be with Anna without worry. Only the issue of the kidney remained a problem, but that sense of ease didn't last. The first week, he tossed and turned at night, unable to sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, the scene of the blazing inferno came back. The girl's hands clinging desperately to the bed frame. Her head lifted, eyes filled with despair, screaming, "I'm not going. Let me burn here. Isn't that what you all want? For me to die?" The sound of her voice refused to leave his head. Each time he woke from a nightmare, he was drenched in cold sweat. By the second week, the hallucinations began. Sitting at the table, he would suddenly drift off, and before his eyes appeared her silhouette. Head bowed just like before, quietly picking out the cilantro he hated most from his plate. Then she would lift her head and smile at him. That smile in his mind was so faint yet so warm. But when Nathan Blake reached out to touch it, all he felt was cold emptiness. It was then he realized that his life had long since been overtaken by her presence. By the third week, he completely broke down. He rushed into the ruins, overturning charred beams with his bare hands, ignoring the way his nails split and bled. Staring at the fragments of debris, he muttered frantically, "Where's her hairpin? Where's the bracelet she loved? Why is there nothing left? Why?" He stormed into Anna's hospital room, seizing her wrist. "Tell me Emily's not dead. You're hiding her somewhere, aren't you? Tell me now." Anna trembled violently, tears welling in her eyes. "No, Nathan, don't scare me. She's gone. My sister is really gone. I don't know anything. Neither do Mom and Dad. No, she's not dead." His bloodshot eyes burned. "Impossible. She has to still be alive." His voice was wild, filled with panic and something else, something he himself couldn't name. It was hope. Nathan shoved her away, staggering out of the room. He went back to the countryside where he had grown up. He asked the neighbors. He questioned his adoptive parents. He searched everyone who had ever known him, but all he heard was the same thing. Emily Carter was dead. He didn't believe it. He scoured every inch of land, desperate to find any trace of me. He often sat in front of the burned attic, staring at the ruins, choking on his grief. That was when he finally realized the truth. The girl he had shoved into the flames with his own hands had long been etched into his life. My shadow haunted him everywhere, leaving him in a living hell. For the first time, Nathan Blake cradled his head in his hands and broke down in sobs. "Emily, I was wrong. I shouldn't have forced you. Shouldn't have hurt you. If you're still alive, will you come back? As long as you return, I'll give up everything I have just for your life." His tears fell, but the only answer was the cold wind whistling through the cracks. A reminder that it was his own hands that had destroyed the love I once gave him. That night I crawled out of the hidden passage beneath the shed, the sky behind me glowing with fire. In that moment I knew Emily Carter had died in the flames. The one who lived on was someone else. I followed the southern road, never daring to take the main streets, choosing only remote paths. With the little money my adoptive parents had left me, I squeezed onto a bus heading south toward the city. Outside the window the sky was lightening. My eyelids grew heavy, my body nearly collapsing from 3 days of running. But I didn't dare sleep. Each time I closed my eyes, the flames in Nathan Blake's face surged back to devour me. 3 days later I finally reached the coastal region. Walking through the streets, my legs felt like they were floating. By the time I stumbled into a narrow alley, my vision darkened and I collapsed. Just before consciousness slipped away, I glimpsed a pair of soldier's boots stained with machine oil stopping in front of me. When I woke, I found myself lying on a hard wooden bed. The room was small, sparsely furnished, but neatly kept. The faint scent of machine oil lingered in the air. I tried to sit up, but pain racked my body, forcing me to suck in a sharp breath. "You're awake." A deep male voice came from the doorway. Startled, I looked over and saw a tall man with a straight posture carrying a bowl of noodles into the room. He wore a worker's undershirt, and his left leg didn't seem quite right, making a soft sound each time he moved. Setting the bowl down on the small table beside the bed, the man said simply, "Eat." I didn't immediately reach for the bowl. Instead, I stayed wary, keeping my eyes on him. "Who are you? Where is this place?" The man didn't seem to care about my suspicion. He sat down not far from the bed, his posture relaxed. "My name's Alex Miller. This is my home. You fainted at my doorstep." "Thank you," I murmured, finally accepting his kindness. From then on, I settled in this city. Each day, I went to the wholesale market to get stock, buying a few clothes to resell at the night market. The fashion scene in the 80s was booming. Flared jeans from Hong Kong, colorful shirts from Guangzhou. Young people fought to snatch them up. With the memories of my past life, I could tell at a glance which styles would sell and which colors were the hottest. Gradually, my stall drew longer and longer lines. Before long, I had saved enough to make my first real investment. I immediately ordered a batch of fabric and rented a small workshop for production. I wanted to create clothes of my own design to build a brand that belonged to me. But success breeds envy. Rivals in the trade began to resent me. Some even threatened me openly. Out-of-towners think they can steal our business. Don't blame us if we don't show mercy. A few days later, my stall was smashed to pieces, my fabric drenched in dirty water. It was Alex Miller who stood up for me, who won back my dignity and helped me gain a foothold in this unfamiliar place. The way he fought was unusual. I was certain he wasn't just an ordinary discharged soldier. 2 weeks later, the first batch of shirts I designed myself hung proudly on my stall. The bright colors and stylish cuts drew young women in droves. My income finally stabilized. One evening, as I was going over the accounts, Alex set a steaming cup of tea on the table. "You're impressive," he said. "Smarter than most women I've met." My heart trembled. Across 2 lifetimes, very few people had ever truly recognized me. Emily Carter, the girl who burned in the fire, was gone. The woman who lived now would seize her own destiny, and Alex Miller perhaps would be the one to walk beside me. But I never expected to run into Nathan Blake in this place. That day, I was negotiating business at the market. I turned to tell one of my employees, "Tom, take the samples to the factory." Just as the words left my mouth, a voice rang out from the crowd. "Emily." My body froze. That familiar voice pierced straight through my heart. Slowly I lifted my head. Nathan was standing amid the bustling crowd, his eyes locked on me, his face pale, tears glistening in his gaze. My own eyes went cold instantly. Without hesitation, I quickened my steps forward as if he were nothing more than a stranger. But Nathan suddenly went mad, lunging toward me, his hand reaching out to grab my arm. "Emily, is it really you? You're alive." I instinctively moved to avoid him, but before I could, a large hand clamped firmly around his wrist. "Let go." It was Alex Miller. I hadn't even noticed when he came to my side, but now his tall figure stood in front of me, shielding me. Though dressed only in plain work clothes, his presence was intimidating, overwhelming. Nathan flinched, startled by Alex's aura, before shouting in anger, "Who the hell are you? What right do you have to meddle in my business?" Alex's face didn't change. His voice was calm, cold. "She's with me. You don't have the right to touch her." My heart shook, but I didn't look back at him. My eyes stayed fixed on Nathan. My voice was sharp and icy. "Mr. Blake, show some respect." The crowd erupted in murmurs. The vendors whispered among themselves, "Who is that guy? Is he her boyfriend? Must be, right?" I didn't care what they thought. Without another glance, I turned and walked away. Behind me came the sound of hurried footsteps and Nathan's broken voice, nearly collapsing into desperation. "Emily, how can you look at me like that? You know you love me." My steps faltered, my chest stabbing with pain as if pierced by a knife. But in the very next second, I drew in a deep breath and forced myself to keep walking. Love. I had already died twice. Whatever love there had been was long buried in the ashes. From the day we met at the market, Nathan Blake seemed to lose his mind. Wherever I went, he followed. By day, he stood at the gate of my factory. By night, he lingered at my stall in the night market. The moment he opened his mouth, it was always, "Emily, listen to me. Let me explain." I didn't even bother to glance at him. Explain what? That day in the flames, it was his own hand that slammed the door shut. That was the clearest answer I would ever need. One afternoon, as I was preparing to close up my stall, Nathan suddenly rushed forward and grabbed my wrist, his eyes bloodshot. "Emily," he pleaded. "I was wrong. You can hit me, curse me, do whatever you want, but don't ignore me like this. I love you. I regret everything so much it's killing me. I can't live without you." I yanked my hand free, my voice cold. "Between you and me, there's nothing left." His face went white. "How can you treat me this way?" "Because there was never anything between us," I replied. "Everything in the past was a mistake. You pretended to be crippled to trick me into pitying you, and then you wanted my life. Why should I forgive you?" In my past life, Nathan Blake had used that same excuse to keep our marriage chastened, never once touching me. It wasn't until the day I died that I learned the truth. He had been a brilliant medical student, feigning disability, not only to win pity but also to keep himself pure for Anna. He knew she loved Daniel Turner. Yet, he was still willing to silently devote himself to her. And me? Why was I the one who had to be sacrificed? Without waiting for his answer, I turned and walked away, never looking back at his ashen face. "Emily, don't push me." His voice cracked behind me. The next day he returned, but this time he couldn't get close. A military jeep had stopped in front of my factory. Several tall soldiers with stern expressions climbed out, their salutes sharp and respectful. "Commander Miller," they greeted, their voices steady. I froze in shock while Alex Miller merely gave a small nod. "Routine inspection," he said casually. "Thought I'd stop by." Nathan's face drained of color as he stood rooted to the spot, his eyes darting between me and Alex in panic. All this time, he had thought Alex was just a crippled ex-soldier. Only now did he realize that the man standing at my side was someone whose status far surpassed his own. I looked at Alex, a strange warmth rising in my chest. Nathan nearly lost his mind. By day, he stood outside my factory gate, clutching a bottle of liquor, reeking of alcohol. By night, he crouched in front of my house, clinging to the iron gate, sobbing, "Emily, come out and see me. I know you still love me." From my window, I looked down at him like one might look at a rabid dog, my heart cold and unmoved. One evening after finishing work, I reached home only to see him suddenly drop to his knees in front of me. His legs slammed into the concrete so hard that blood seeped through his pants and trickled down. "Emily, I was wrong," he begged. "You can hit me, curse me, but don't treat me so coldly." Before I could react, he raised his fist and smashed it into his own face, blood immediately streaming from his nose. My heart gave a small involuntary jolt. But before I could say a word, Alex stepped forward, placing himself between us. He gripped my hand firmly, his voice gentle. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Nathan's eyes blazed red as he shouted, half-crazed, "Who the hell are you? She's mine." But Alex's gaze was icy enough to freeze marrow. "From this day forward, if you dare take one more step toward her, I'll make sure you disappear completely." Nathan froze for the first time, showing true fear in his eyes. But even then, he still wasn't ready to give up. A few days later, Nathan Blake showed up again, this time dragging along Anna, frail and sickly, to stand in front of my factory gates. Anna had grown so thin she was almost unrecognizable, her face as pale as paper. Leaning weakly against him, she called out softly, "Sister." The sound caught in my chest like a thorn. But before I could even react, Nathan let out a cold laugh. "Emily, she's dying. Can't you stop being angry?" I clenched my teeth. This man was truly despicable and shameless. "Nathan Blake," I said evenly, "there's nothing left between you and me. You're pathetic." Tears streamed down his face as he laughed like a madman. "Pathetic? If being pathetic is what it takes to make you come back, I'll do anything." Before I could move, Alex Miller stepped forward, pulling me into his arms and holding me tightly. "Let's go home," he said quietly. Nathan crumbled completely at the sight. He shoved Anna aside and began to wail like a lunatic. "Emily, how can you do this? How can you abandon me?" Later, I heard Anna's illness worsened and she was sent back to the countryside for treatment. Nathan truly lost his mind. He wandered the streets, muttering my name over and over. And me? I stood outside my factory, staring at the bright lights of the workshop, burying myself in work. In the blink of an eye, 15 years passed. Alex Miller had become a senior advisor to the military, and I had built my own fashion brand. Anna had died several years earlier. Her illness worsened until she finally passed away. Before she died, I went to visit her. She bared her teeth and spat my name. "Why is it you who gets to live well in the end? Why did God let you live?" I simply looked at her in silence without anger. Because my being alive was the greatest victory of all. And Nathan Blake, his business collapsed. His factory went bankrupt. He drowned in debt and was left with nothing. People said they'd seen him hunched on a grimy street corner, hair white, clothes in rags, clutching a cheap bottle of liquor. "Emily, wait for me. Don't leave me," he would mutter. When the news of his suicide reached me, I was at an international contract signing. The pen in my hand didn't pause. I signed my name firmly on the document. After the ceremony, Alex draped a coat over my shoulders. "Emily," he said softly, "I'm here to take you home." I lifted my head and looked at him. The sunset streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, laying a gentle glow across his shoulders. He had always been like that, quietly taking care of me in the smallest ways. Nathan Blake's death meant nothing to me anymore. The terrible memories had long since been buried with time. Now I had my adoptive parents always by my side. A husband who protected me, a thriving career, and 2 adorable children. The past could blow away with the wind. The future was mine, bright and full of hope.